And that was track 8 and track 9 off the Backwind album, Lights Have Eyes. And these are the Polk M40 Roman numeral II. They don't look too different from the Mark I. Let's take a look at that. I really like the way the Mark I's look. It really gives you that Circuit City era kind of flavor. And I think they sold these ones, the way these ones look at Circuit City just before they went. But either way, I'm kind of nostalgic for the kind of styling. Let's take a closer look at the tweeter. It's got like sparkly stuff in it. It looks like it's made of recycled plastic or something. So let's talk about these speakers. Oh, let me turn the media player off, of course. So I was wanting to try some Polk speakers for a while because people talk smack about Polk. And then Stereopolice came along and said this.
Not many companies have done that. A lot of companies have sold out and basically have destroyed themselves. Polk Audio is one of them. They're dead to me. And many other...
And then I was like, oh, we got to get these speakers for sure. So I get them. And the first thing I do is knock on the side of the cabinet. It's like, oh, it's hollow. It's like, boom. But it's like, okay, that's what I spent the money for. Speaking of value of price, I got them for 200 spacebucks, you know, plus what if you can get them delivered to you for less than 200 spacebucks, I'd say it's a respectable value. But we'll go into uses and stuff. They got like kind of a treated paper cone, I think, and whatever kind of tweeter that is. Let's talk about this first, though. This is kind of why I wanted to get them, because it's like the ultimate boombox speaker. So we're bi-amping them with a pair of these. So let's review how this wiring harness works. So the media player, which we'll talk about that later perhaps, or its own video, which goes from a headphone jack to stereo RCAs, and then you have these little guys, these monoprice adapters that go from a female RCA to a stereo headphone. So it goes dual mono in here, left dual mono here, right dual mono here. And if you were going to have this jostling around and stuff, you'd probably want to add a headphone extension cable into the signal path, because ow, it shocked me, because that could probably break if you were. So why is there switch boxes on it? Let's talk about that. So what I was going to do is, oh my god, there's bats chirping. It's bat country out here. Anyways, I wanted to be able to compare these amps to running it off my AVR, which is, hold on, let's put a picture of that. So we're just going to call that receiver Billy. So when I say I was powering it with Billy, it means that particular receiver in bi-amp powering these. So I was the idea was, this amp, this is the wires that go into the A output, which makes it input, then they come out the input, which is now the output for the speakers. And then the receiver, Billy's, bi-amps, so we're going to go into there, left bi-amps in here, right bi-amps in there, and I was going to switch between them. And the way that was working was, I had a headphone splitter, which went to two of these kind of cables. One cable went into the Billy, and then the other cable went to this. But there was a problem. It was like the amps were touching each other, even though these amps, these switch boxes, they're specifically designed. I've done it before with just one of them, where you can switch amps. It's A/B compare like amps, basically. But somehow, they were getting interference from each other, like the lights were flickering on that, the receiver wasn't working, it was making weird sounds when I put to this, and they were getting hot. So just turn everything off, and then I unplugged Billy from the switch boxes, and it worked fine, running this. And I was like, okay, maybe this new, because this is a new one, this new switcher here, they're identical. I was like, maybe it has some kind of internal fault. So what I did was, I switched this one off, or I turned off whatever, and I was just, oh, no, I had both. Whatever. And I was just playing it normally like it is now out of, because this doesn't do anything, that's just a disconnect. But anyways, so I did that. I was playing it, they're on, and I switched it to B on both of them. So if it had some kind of internal fault, if either of them did, you'd be able to faintly hear something coming out of it. But it didn't. So I don't think there's anything wrong with these. I think maybe it's just because the same analog signal and headphones have the negative terminal shared in left and right, so that negative was getting shared with the receiver and then 2 amps, and it didn't like it. But the other thing could be is this, that these produced like electromagnetic stuff, and it was cross wirelessly interfering with the speaker wire and this cross signal off each other. I don't know. I'm like 99.99999% sure I had all hooked up right. I don't know. What I could have done was hook it up like that again, but only connect the wire from the DAP to this, and then just run the receiver off of its own internal USB. But I was too scared to do it. I don't want to blow anything up. So let's talk about characteristics. They're kind of like cheap boy speaker, like I mentioned, but they just sound good. Like the bass, see, this cheap speaker effect is like it has more bass because the cabinet kind of goes like, well, it's a single port in the back, by the way. Oh, and I'll probably talk about those Bics I reviewed. Hold on, let me insert a picture so you know what I'm talking about when I say Bics. I should have liked to have brought the Bics. I could have brought a third one of these, which I have, third amp, because they're not biampable, and just plug the amp, helpful have just 2 DAPs, and just, you know, have the Bics set up on the sides. But that's whatever. I don't be bringing house furniture out here, because these, I don't care if they get dirty. They're old, broken speakers that I'm using as speaker stands. But the thing about that too is the Bics, you can't get them for $200 a pair anymore. Like more. So it's like the whole cheap speaker arena is just messed up because the economy is messed up. But let's talk about these. Like I said, if you get them for less than 200 spacebucks delivered, I'd say it's a pretty good deal. They're a pretty good starter speaker. Like I said, the bass, it kind of goes the boom and stuff. When it's like turned, you gotta have them just certain things you can turn. Like when I was powering with Billy, like certain rock music, you could just crank them and it's just yes. But most of the time, it's kind of like a Corvette, how it has that 6th gear, which is like a long overdrive, just like turn the volume down, use your low end torque. They're much happier when they're quieter. Well, let's pop the hood. Let's steal some JPEGs from someone else who popped the hood right now. So that was from Audio Science Review. I randomly seen that. The only thing I read on there was that someone said, oh, they're kind of bright. Not really. They're pretty tolerable to me. They have a really pleasant kind of tonality to them. You know the character Phoebe on Friends. They kind of they have a coloration. They're not like accurate, but they're fun. They're pleasant, and the integration, like the bass drivers, they stop producing highs when they should. They roll off properly, so they're not like producing highs like these other MTM speakers. I'll talk about some. Oh, let's talk about it right now. Hold on. I'll sort of picture what is the right here. So I had a pair of the JBL Studio 520C center channels. I had them sideways, had them all different ways. But the problem with that speaker is it shouldn't have been an MTM speaker, and it's bad because the mid basses on the 520Cs, they just keep producing highs like they're playing full range, and when they have them on the top and bottom and they're really far apart, it just makes it ass. These are a better MTM speaker than those. These are a better speaker than those. Stay away from the JBL Studio 520C. They're like the freak. They're kind of like the guy in Goonies that's chained in the basement, except he's like small too, so he doesn't have the benefit of being big. Just like freak of the family. Stay away from the JBL Studio 520C. Anyways, these are a better MTM speaker than that, because like when you get up, you move around and stuff, they don't like get bad. Like the 520Cs, there's just nowhere you could be. You have to be like directly in front of the speaker, or it's gonna sound bad. With these, it's not as bad. You can get up and go around. Like you have these, set them up where you have a sweet spot, right? But when you deviate in the living room, it's not going to be bad or anything. So let's compare them to the Bics a little bit. Like the Bics have more of a firmer bass. These kind of have like a ghetto blaster kind of bass. But like I said, when you have them turned down, they're very pleasant. They kind of go to the whoomp. And they have a really speedy bass too. It's kind of like, it's hard to explain, but it's like it's got a speedier bass. They're like, well, they're probably a better MTM speaker than the Bics, honestly. But the Bics, they have a little bit more. I just like them a little bit better, I'd say. They're more when I guess they're a little more accurate. These have a lot. I'd say they both have their sort of coloration, but these are more colorized. They're great for 80s music. The colorization they have is great for 80s music. Now here's another random thing. So Polk makes a speaker that's like the same speaker as this. It's a higher up version that has the same looking tweeter, but the bass drivers have 6 bolts instead of 4, and they're not biampable like these. And I was considering getting them as like, let's do the next one. But I read a bunch of reviews saying that the tweeters caught on fire and nearly burnt their house down. And they look like these tweeters, so I'm a little concerned. So you should probably know that if you're considering. I don't think they'll blow up. I've never heard of these particular ones doing that. Just the more higher end ones that have the same kind of tweeter. That's apparently not as good. And they kind of feel like a Cracker Jack box speaker. It feels silly that they are biampable, but for this particular purpose, it works great. Talk about the wires. So, obviously the switch boxes don't do anything. I just use it to like a anti-thump, so I like turn this on and then click it. Maybe it micro thumps a little, whatever. It's fun to hit the switches even though it doesn't do anything. It's also too helpful, like if you're playing music, it's like, it's distorting super bad because they played distorty rap music. You just click off, and then turn them off. Quicker turn off. But the main reason I have that, obviously, is just so I can connect the micro wires. Because see how that's like a 14 gauge or 12 gauge or 14 gauge monster. Ow, it's shocking me. Interesting. It's like a 14 gauge wire. It's probably the biggest wire I can get to this amp. And it's hard to get wires, and I just use bare wire, not use all this. And the micro wires aren't providing any benefit. So when you saw when we looked inside of one of these, it's got thin little wire that's probably even copper coated aluminum wire inside of there. They sound pretty good though. We'll talk about that later. Like the micro wires, they just cause the signal path to not be degraded any more than it already is. And it's just a matter of just convenience because I could just plug it in. It's so much easier. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Like, let's show a picture of where I had them set up in my room. And when I had them set up in the room, they were powered by Billy. And then the JBL N38s were powered by that crappy Yamaha. And then after I tried the whole fiasco trying to switch the amps that didn't work, I was like, So I just hooked these back up to this. Well, no, I hooked these back up to the Billy, and I made sure it was okay. And then I hooked these back up to this and kept it that way. And then I hooked up the N38s to Billy. And what I was doing was, I was playing stuff on this with these, right? And then I would play stuff on the same stuff on the N38s with Billy. And it's like, it just blew these away. I was playing like tracks from Deus Ex soundtrack, and it like played on the N38s with Billy, and then you played on these, and it's like it went from 3D to 2D. But I think it's just because I didn't have my imaging properly set up. See, I have a test tone in there where it kind of plays left, right, and then in phase, out of phase. Then when you hear the out of phase, you want to make sure that your head is perfectly centered where it kind of goes in your ears. Because in phase, it's over there, right? And out of phase, it should be equally making in both of your ears. Because if you're a little over, it'll just hear the on the right, or if you're over here, it'll just on the left. When you get it when it's going in both ears out of phase, then you know your head is in the correct position. It's a good calibration tool. So let's go through the startup procedure. Turn on the DAP. And then it flashes really bright white, which is really helpful to blind yourself in the middle of the night. I'm not sure if you can make it not do that, but it's helpful to see where your pipe is that way. And then it loads eventually. Explorer, TF card, music, and then go folder number 8. I have in here, and then go to pink noise, 60 seconds. And it's playing it. There you go. Click that on, activate, and turn that to full. All the way up to max, then turn the other one all the way up to max. Now it's playing pink noise. You can use that to kind of center your head too, because when you're playing pink noise, you can kind of tell when it's like cancellation happening, and then you can use that to kind of get your head in the right spot. So let's play the calibration track real quick. Volume level 50. This goes from 0 to 100. Generally go to like 70, 80. If it's something that's recorded really quietly, you can turn up to 100, but generally keep it down like 55. 70, 55, stuff like that, depending on what it is. And if it's like really basic music, turn it down to 45 if the batteries are starting to die. But even like bassy stuff, keep it like 55, 62, stuff like that. It's not too bassy. Turn up to 70, even 75 if you want. But when you generally get to 80, you're kind of pushing it. Anyways.
1, 2, 1, 2.
So I have a mono mic. It's going back and forth, one to the other. In phase, out of phase, in phase. So you get it. I'll link to both of those, the pink noise and the other thing, you know, whatever. Hold on. Oh, let's not have it play that. Try it down. Okay, so let's play some clips, I guess. Let's play a couple of clips from earlier. Let's play a couple of clips from last night, or this morning, earlier this morning. The first 2 tracks off of Taste Experience Beyond the Horizon. Play that now. Let's play Kidney Thieves. This is, oh wait, hold on. Let's play Kidney Thief Trickster. First track, Tasca Messiah. Let's play a little bit of that. Try up a little extra, and then we'll go walk around a little. Okay, that's. Let's try about 63. Let's go to the bush dimension and take a look at the grill. We've arrived in the bush dimension. Here we have a Polk M40 Roman numeral 2 grill. You see it's braced, so it protects all the drivers, except see how with the little nipple kind of gets skinnier? That represents where it gets flush with the speaker. And there's like a solid 1.5 inch of just stuff can fall into the speaker. Let's take a look. So you have this on here, like dust can still get in the top, and kids can drop like a phone in the crack, or little cars or stuff that will damage the drivers. So the grills are sort of decent, but they have a lot of Polks have that stupid grill with curves that just lets dust and crap and the debris in the top. Just make it be filled in the top. If you had kids or something, you have to 3D print a little top to that. That is extra expense. Let's push this back to the bush dimension. Okay, let's turn that all the way to 0, so I don't get a copyright strike. Well, let's talk about this media player. It's pretty basic. It's like a PSP, the way it works. Holds a certain amount of songs, certain size SD card. I'll put a link in the description. It's nice. I really like it. The only thing it's missing is a digital audio output. It's got a headphone jack. Oops, that's how we control the volume, of course. The amps are set to maximum, and you just control the volume with this. And it's got a regular auxiliary output that doesn't. It's just max volume. It's not affected. So if you plug your headphones into that, you're gonna die. Just be careful. Like when I plug this into my regular stereo at home, I plug that into that. But for using the volume control, you use this one. So what do I use this for home theater? I don't know, maybe. See, the thing is, don't buy the center channel that goes with these, because it's different. It's not one of these, just like if you buy the center channel that goes with it, it's not one of these just by itself. It's not that. It's like a separate speaker that is different geometry, and it's like probably doesn't go down as low. Probably has different kind of bass. Just if you want to use these, I was thinking about just buying 3 pairs of them and just putting one sideways, because so normally sideways MTM speakers are bad because you get off axis, but these are kind of a good MTM speaker. So if you turn this sideways and put it on top of your TV or below your TV, it might actually be pretty decent. I'm not sure it'd be good for home theater, but I think the idea of these speakers is you just buy them and you save your money, and you should enjoy listening to these speakers, and don't listen to nicer speakers, because like when you listen to those JBL N38s, it's like, oh my god, these are done. But as long as you don't listen to more expensive speakers, you can really, even I enjoy these. I've had to deprive myself for quite a while because I have all these other stuff that's going to definitely blow these away. I had to so it's happening finally. They're still good though. I still like them. I don't think I'd get rid of them because I love their aesthetics, and then they're a good boombox speaker. Just have somebody who knows what they're doing. Just make the amps internals go in that, so I could just plug in a headphone extension cable and just skip all this mess and just have wires that go to my DAP, and have like speaker stands that can just bloop and then just go up, and you can just auto level, kind of like pivots. Because I had to kind of like put dirt on it here. Like I was just lucky enough to find a nice kind of flat piece of land to work with here. Is if I was going to try to add surround sound to this, what I would try to do is they make a bookshelf version of this that's just not an MTM speaker, it's just missing one of these, like probably the bottom one, I guess. What I try to do is just try to find one individual one to be the center channel, because that way you can put it underneath this TV or above the TV. Try to get it as the tweeter as close to ear level as those tweeters you can. Maybe tilt it up a little, because that way it'll be just making it not be an MTM speaker for the center channel will just be better, because different off axes and things. And then just try to find another pair of those kind. The kind that are just not an MTM speaker, and have a pair of those as a surround channel. So 3 more speakers of those kind. People should just stop buying sideways MTM speakers. I'm telling you, just buy find a pair of bookshelf speakers you like that are not MTM speakers, and then just buy 2 more pairs of them. You have extra speakers, 5.0. These wouldn't be too bad in home theater. Like I said, like with the formula I just said, just get them where they're optimized for the sweet spot, and then just whoever's off axis a little, just compromise a little. Oh, and another thing too is I had the subwoofer to this series. It was the kind of silly color, the Mark 1's I showed you. They had that kind of color scheme. The subwoofers that go with these, the 10-inch subwoofers, Polk 10-inch subwoofers, whatever they're called, and I hated them. They could never make it sound smooth. Had port turbulence. Like the box wasn't like the right airspace in there. So I could never get it to be smooth. And I had one. The one I had, it was foam surround, of course. The foam surround routed, and I got a GRS 10-inch driver, put it in there, and it worked. And it still was just. It probably just made it worse. Because then it's really just like the port. It's not tuned, and it's just like bad. I actually found some on eBay that were like $40 a piece. I should have bought a pair of them and just tried to make friends. Because then, I couldn't bring them out here. I don't have electrical outlet. And they do this does have a pretty good high fidelity sound. When I first switched to using these amps, I couldn't switch back and forth, but just, my memory, I was kind of thinking like the treble from using these amps, it was like more nuanced, but more hard. I didn't have any of that problem when I brought it out here, though. It sounds good. It's doing all kinds of magical things. I was listening to Deus Ex soundtrack, hearing stuff going on over there. It's just very good stereo imaging. As long as you get that's the thing, though. You got to get your head in the sweet spot. And let's talk about biamp again. Like, say you didn't want to biamp them. One useful thing you could do, like say you're using these as a desk speaker, which it wouldn't be too bad, I guess. I tried them near the wall, next to my desktop computer on the right. I put them on the wall. And then I sat just to test, how having it near the wall. And there's more bassy when they're like that, right up against the wall, but not as gushing as I thought they would be. It probably would annoy your neighbors if you were to put these up against the wall. If there was neighbors behind there, it probably would annoy them. You should get them like 2-3 foot out away from the wall, like the wall. That's where those like white specks are. Get away from the wall. And the other thing too, I forgot to mention is by having them where they're facing you, where you don't see the sides of the speaker. It makes it where you don't hear like the resonances. That goes that way up. The way that's facing you, you don't get as much of that. What else? Well, I lost my train of thought. But let me think about this. Like, where's Zeos? Where's Danny Ritchie? Where's all the... Why can't they make like a rack mount style? Anything that's just all in one, has the battery rechargeable. And batteries in this... The batteries in these are really hard to change. And I'm going to have to do a video of it when I have a GoPro, because that's the only way to document how much of a pain it is to put the batteries in this. I should make it like a boombox thing that's like a little bit skinnier than that. It's metal. This has like screw holes, and then you put the thing next to it and you say dock, and it goes boosh, and it screws to it, and you do the other one. It's like a boombox, and it just has like a 4-pin cable. Click. I want to make that. That's the appeal of these. They're kind of, it's like they're crappy, right? They're kind of light and crappy, but you could take them to places like this. It's kind of like the best compromise. Kind of like the ultimate, it is kind of like the ultimate boombox speaker. Is what I was hoping it would be. Until you listen to a better speaker. I want to bring my Studio 590s out here when I'm off of this. Put down like a big carpet. I was thinking I could do those. Put down a big carpet, make templates of the footprints of the 590 where the carpet spikes are going to go, right? And then just use math and geometry to decide how I want the speakers to be. Put down the template, then put down the speaker with carpet spikes directly in the right place. And then I'm going to... And you have 590s into the dirt with the carpet spikes on a rug. And it's awesome. And then get like... Probably just get like better amps anyways, like that amp on my desk, the SA98E. Get 2 of those, and then hook them up to big car batteries. I don't know how to make that work, though. If you know how to make that work, put it in the comments, because that's where this is going next. I think Zeos is over there. Danny Ritchie. Bring Danny Ritchie over here. Bring your speakers out here, Danny Ritchie, and let's listen to them. And then I'll just like use these as a footrest, probably. Because when you get rid of the walls and the ceiling, the acoustic problems go away. The wind isn't even blowing that much right now. This is great. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to listen to music and try to think if there's anything else to say. And my phone needs to recharge too, so we'll see what happens next. Oh, so one other random thing is, so, you know, you have the left channel is driving the tweeter, right channel is driving the bass driver. I switch them. Like when I change the batteries, I make it switch where the left is powering the bass, the right is powering the high, and then change the batteries, you're going to switch it where the left is powering the highs and the right is powering the lows. Just in case having one drive the tweeter, one drive the lows, like stressing one amp and not the other. That way it switches it back and forth. Minor OCD thing. And yes, having these on, it does, and it gives any speaker like at least 1% more bass, but they're obviously not hooked up or anything, in case someone's confused about that. They're just speaker stands. Okay, let's listen to music and then try to get out. I gotta leave soon because the sun's coming up and I have vampirism. Oh wait, I remember the other thing I was going to talk about. So let's say, so let's say you're using these on a desk, right? And you've got an amp on your desk that has like, it's not bi-ampable, but it's bi-wireable. You can switch speaker A, speaker B, or both, right? What you can do is have speaker A be the bass driver, speaker B be the tweeter. And that way, if you're using it as desk speakers and you're listening to something on the internet that sounds like crap, you can just turn the tweeter off. That's very helpful. Because some stuff on the internet is recorded badly. I'm not sure what kind of crossover frequency it's at. I think it's like at 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, something like that. Like when you have the tweeters turned off, there's not like treble coming out of there. Because those Studio 520s, like I was trying to explain, they make highs come out of the bass driver, and it makes it have like cheese graters. These don't have cheese graters. These are better than those Dayton Audio speakers, the T652 and B5. I'll put on a picture of those. Yeah, there's the T652s, like little crappy towers there. Not as good as these. They don't have these have like a probably really basic crossover, but it works really well. They don't have cheese graters coming out of them like those speakers. I don't know what to say. I thought they'd be crappy, but They're, well, let me they really are a mid-fi. They're not as good as the JBL N38s. They're pretty detailed though if you take the time to set them up the right way. I recommend them. Try to, if you can. I don't know if there's any, like, this is a real starter speaker, I guess. That's who should be buying this. Someone's just trying to get something that's decent, and then, like, save up to get something really good. If you can get them for like $160 when they're on sale, a pair, as long as it's less than 200 space bucks, I'd say it's a good value, especially considering you can do this, and it's awesome. Oh, and by the way, I have this basket. My cable's getting all dirty. What I should do next time is just tape this so it keeps tension. I was just like kind of wrapping it. So the cable gets wrapped around there. Alright, let's listen to music a little while before I go. This is Windows 96, 100 mornings. We're gonna play some tracks from this and then we're gonna get out of here because I have vampirism. Perhaps one last thing. I'm using those triangular feet that I got from Home Depot. I like them better. The ones that came with it seemed like they wouldn't work as good. These really stick down, keep the speaker from moving. Oh yeah. I guess I have one other thing I'd like to interject. So this cable that goes from a stereo headphone to a dual mono headphone left, dual mono headphone right. Why does somebody make that cable? Make it where it's purple, and then it goes dual mono, and it's blue, and then dual mono, and it's red. It's a simple wire that does that. Because I like to take the JBL Go 2s and wire them up like that, and use them as a stereo pair. Basically the same way this is, you turn the Go 2s to maximum, and then you adjust the volume with your DAP. And the Go 1's and the Go 2's, the Go 1's, I'll link it in the description. It's a really good speaker. I was trying to tell PMARS to go get one, but I tried to post a link and it wouldn't work. There's some that are $30, some that are $35, but all the Go 1's that are left are blue. That'll be a different review though. Those speakers are great. Click the description, buy the ones that are $30. Good little Bluetooth speaker. I thought I'd mention that, because you can't post a link, so I figured I'd post a link to it here so people could see that speaker, because I always talk about it. 100 speakers. Play music. Stereopolice, you're crazy. These speakers are pretty decent, especially if you got them for 160 space bucks. I can kind of see where you were coming from when I was like tapping on them, but they're well engineered cheap speakers. They do the cheap speaker thing really well, and you keep the volume down. A nice, I wouldn't say it's swampy bass, it's like good bass. It's just good. Although I will admit that when you play, I played a frequency sweep through these, and you could hear the cabinet going, it will resonate. But if you use the hack, like I said, sit kind of far away with the front baffle only facing, you will, if it does resonate, it'll probably be so quiet you won't hear it. They sound great. I want to have Danny Ritchie listen to these, be like, where's all the cabinet resonances? I mean, it's coloring the sound, but it doesn't sound bad. Some stuff isn't like recorded that well. This might be a good solution for stuff that isn't recorded well, because it's high fidelity, but it's not giving you so much detail that badly recorded music's gonna sound bad. And they never were offensive to me. I'm very touchy about what kind of high frequencies I like, but they never really were offensive. I like them. I want to try more Polk stuff. They're not dead to me. They're new to me. More Polks. If you've got Polks, just dump them in the nearest abandoned house and they'll make their way to me. More Polks for me. Give me your Polks. That's all, folks. Shout out to the guy with the flashy off-road lights over there on the mountain the whole night.